Hello students. Today, we will listen to 3 stories about if statements. When I went to the supermarket to buy something, I encountered a particularly interesting thing. Hello everyone, I'm in the supermarket now. I bought some snacks. Now ready to go to checkout. I found a conveyor belt at the checkout. The item will automatically stop before reaching the front. So, what is the control logic of this conveyor belt? The secrets about conveyor belts. When I saw everyone discussing on the learning platform, the high-frequency phrases in the word cloud were mainly if statements and if conditions. So, today we will learn about the high-frequency statements in program development. The 3 forms of the if statement. In the process, everyone is required to master the different formats of if statements. You need to use if statements to control the conveyor belt. Learn to apply knowledge to solve practical problems in life. First, let's look at the basic form of the if statement. If statements are conditional judgments. Its basic form is to check whether an expression is true. If the expression evaluates to true, then it executes the following statement block. The if-else statement also starts with a conditional judgment, and when the expression evaluates to true, executes statement block 1. Otherwise, executes statement block 2. So what is the difference between an if statement and an if-else statement? If statement can only be executed if the condition is true. The if-else statement can specify the statement to be executed when the condition is false. Similarly, let's look at this conversation between 2 students.
Tomorrow morning, there will be another morning class. So, will you go to eat breakfast tomorrow?
If I can wake up before 7:30, I'll go for breakfast. If I can't wake up, then forget it.
These 2 students said, if he can wake up before 7:30, then he will go to breakfast. Otherwise, he will skip breakfast. Let's express this using programming logic. Like this. If they can get up at 7:30, they will have breakfast. Otherwise, they won't have breakfast. Everyone should maintain good health. We should eat breakfast every day. So, remember to go to bed early and wake up early. Next, let's take a look at the 3rd form of the if-else if statement. Its execution process is to judge the value of the expression in turn. When a value is true, then executes its corresponding statement block. Then jump outside of the whole if statement. Then it executes the corresponding statement block. If all expressions are false, then it executes the final else statement block. Stories about if-else if statement. Let's listen to the conversation between these 2 students.
I studied computer science. Recently, I wanted to buy a computer to study.
Do you need to ask your parents for advice?
That is for sure. I have to ask my mother for her opinion first. If she disagrees, then I will consult my father's opinion.
So, your family seems quite democratic.
Now let's give it a try. Let's try to express their dialogue using programming logic. Like this. If the mother agrees, he can buy a computer. Else, if the father agrees, he can also buy the computer. Otherwise, you can't buy the computer. In such a harmonious and democratic family, I believe his parents will buy him the computer and support his studies. If you master the 3 forms of if statements, now let's look at an example of a conveyor belt control. Before the course, we saw the work of conveyor belts in supermarkets like this. If there is no object blocking the path between A and B, the conveyor belt works. If there is an object blocking the path between A and B, the conveyor belt stops. The control logic of the conveyor belt is now clear. Now let's try to express it in an if statement. If there is no object blocking the conveyor belt, the conveyor belt will work. Otherwise, the conveyor belt will stop. Please think about it. In addition to this expression, is there any other way to express it? Another approach is to write conveyor stops first. It is to block the object. Write conveyor stops first. Write the negative condition, no object blocking, conveyor belt working at the end. Just like this. In fact, during program development, we usually don't express control logic in words. So how should the program code be written? Let's take a look at how conveyor belts are applied in engineering. In actual applications, sensors are used to detect objects. The circuit converts the detected object into an electrical signal for output. We simply need to program the system to control it with electrical signals. The operation and stop of the conveyor belt can be realized. For instance, in this application, the sensor circuit is connected to pin P2.1 of the microcontroller. The program is defined as check when developing. Sensor A transmits signal. Sensor B receives the signal. If there is no object in the middle of the A and B, the circuit outputs a low signal represented by 0. If there is an object in the middle of A and B, then the output is high, represented by 1. The conveyor belt control is connected to the P2.2 pin of the microcontroller. The control is named count in the program. When the microcontroller outputs a low signal, the conveyor belt can be stopped. When the microcontroller outputs a high signal, the conveyor belt can be controlled. Now, let's compare the control logic we expressed in words. Combine what you have learned before. This is how we write it in program code now. If check equals 0, count equals 1, else count equals 0. The 3 stories about the if statement are complete. Now, let's summarize it together. The basic form of the if statement is like this. An if statement only executes when the condition is true. It specifies the statement to be executed. The if-else statement can also execute when the condition is false. It specifies the statement to be executed in that case. The final if-else statement can evaluate multiple conditions. Have you understood it? You can try one of these exercises, submit the final results and code to the learning platform. Well, that's the end of today's class. Thank you.